Your unconscious mind only operates on the top 5 core values. Your values drive your behavior. They also indicate when you're going to be fulfilled and not fulfilled. So, I think that for anybody who's listening to this, if you are building something, to really allow yourself to build it with what's important to you, what's going to be fulfilling to you, as opposed to what society tells you.
Welcome to Tradition Breakers. I'm Mary Moses, former corporate executive turned creative entrepreneur, and each episode I bring you an inspiring person or message to help more of us in the AAPI community break free from restrictive traditions that are preventing us from going after the life that we truly desire. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Do I have an episode to share with you all? This is for those who have ever felt stuck or lost in your life. And for those who might have accomplished everything you set your mind to, but still end up feeling empty inside. This is for those who maybe know what to do, but procrastination or self-doubt stop you from taking action. Good news. I have Judy Tsuei here today, and she is going to tell you how NLP, Neuro-Linguistics Programming, can help you get unstuck and free yourself from these limiting beliefs. Judy is a high-level mindset coach who is sought after by top-level executives, founders, and leaders. But even if you're not any of these and you just want to use it on your personal life, oh my God, this is going to be amazing for that too. On this episode, we talk about mindset, discovering and aligning with your core values, harnessing the creativity in your unconscious, and so much more. And then Judy also gifts us with a simple NLP exercise that you can do to help yourself right now. So without further ado, let's get into my interview with Judy Tsuei. Are your ads costing more than they're bringing in? Are influencers posting about your brand but not driving sales? Are your emails going out, but no one's clicking or buying? If that sounds familiar, your business doesn't need more marketing. It needs a sharper message and a smarter strategy. Hi, I'm Mary Moses, fractional CMO for hospitality, retail, and beauty brands. For over a decade, I've led marketing for national restaurant chains and e-commerce brands, helping founders grow by creating a clear, impactful message that aligns with who tells it, where it's told, and who it's told to. Because when your message, messengers, and communication channels are in sync, marketing stops being noise and starts driving profit. This month, I'm offering 5 founders a complimentary 20-minute brand growth reset audit. In this call, we'll do 3 things. 1, identify what actually drove results for you in 2025. 2, uncover the gaps limiting retention and profitability. And 3, define the 2 to 3 strategic moves that will position your brand to grow faster next year. To sign up, just go to tastydirectives.com. Now remember, there's only 5 spots, so if I were you, I would pause this real quick and just sign up right now. Again, that's tastydirectives.com. Judy, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation.
I am too. And first off, congratulations on the big move. That's so great. Can you tell everybody like the big transition or the move that you're about to embark upon? Because it's
Yeah.
super special and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I just sold my personal branding agency to my lead writer. It happened really organically. And I'm very grateful because she's been with me as my first hire since I got back from living abroad, building this iteration of the company. And it's been amazing to watch her grow and support her in that. And now I get to catapult her even further along her journey by helping to kind of create this legacy that she's been part of building. So as part of the selling of the agency, I'm also going to continue to mentor her, which for me fills me up so much. I love to see other women thrive. I love to see other Asian Americans, women of color thrive. And she's also a young mom. And so I hope that the intergenerational impact continues to flow because she gets to do what she loves. She gets to be in a leadership role. She gets to create the kind of life that she wants for the independence and, the craft that she's building. And so it's very exciting.
Yay, I'm so excited for you all. And what a great fit. Like
Yes.
you're still able to be there, support her. Um, and while you're doing that, you're also going to get to really step into the role that you're taking on now, which is doing coaching,
Mhm.
executive leadership coaching full time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that being in a bunch of different entrepreneurial circles, everybody's always talking about scaling your company and selling and doing all these things. And I think there's so many other things to focus on in addition to that. So one of the things I do as a coach is I help you figure out your values, because unless you're clear on what that is, and your values could be different for each key area of life. So most people come to me for career. They might come to me also for a relationship or personal growth and development. Whatever that area is, you're going to have a different set of core values. And when I take clients through this exercise, I will ask them, hey, tell me what your core values are. Tell me about a time when you were totally motivated in the context of this area of your life. They'll tell me, and then we'll do a hierarchy exercise. So we'll actually rank them. Because the key thing to know is that your unconscious mind only operates on the top 5 core values. Your values drive your behavior. They also indicate when you're going to be fulfilled and not fulfilled. So I did a
Mm.
breakthrough session on my definition of career, what's important to me about career, and being able to live my purpose, being able to have an impact. Wealth is definitely up there, but there are so many other aspects to it. So, I think that for anybody who's listening to this, if you are building something, to really allow yourself to build it with what's important to you, what's going to be fulfilling to you, as opposed to what society tells you. Because I can tell you, I'm around people all day, every day who are looking to 10x their revenue and build the company to scale it, to sell it, and all of that kind of stuff. And yes, I'm very grateful and lucky that I was able to sell my agency. I didn't build it with that in mind. So now as I build the coaching agency, I am building it with a different foundational place, knowing that those core values are so important to me and that I'm at the helm of it. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything in that integrity.
I love that. Being clear with your values allows you to set like a really strong foundation for
Yeah.
your business. And also, it allows anyone to be able to make a decision from a place of confidence. I feel
Mm.
like I think not being aligned and clear with what your top 5 values are, like you were talking about, makes decision making so hard, don't you think?
Yeah, because your conscious mind is the captain of the ship, your unconscious mind is the crew. So anytime that you're not seeing results that you actually want to see out there in your life, it's because there's some sort of friction or a lack of communication between the two. And your
Mm.
unconscious mind is going to operate based on values, but your conscious mind might be saying, well, hey, no, the world tells me I need to get the title and buy the house and get the car and all of that kind of stuff. And so having that inner conflict can mitigate your progress. It can hinder your the results that you want to see. So being able to get clear, and it's always fun because when I do the hierarchy exercise, the first thing that I ask is for a client to actually rank it themselves. Then I'll take them through and I'll rank it with them again based on what their unconscious mind actually believes, and it's always a different order. And so they're like, oh, so
Ooh.
that's why I'm doing that.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So is that like one of the first things that you do when you start working with a new client is have that hierarchy exercise done?
Yeah, so I usually break the way that we do a like the kickoff for a client is to do a breakthrough session. So the breakthrough session, you
Okay.
can kind of say it's done in a weekend or it's 2 days back to back. And so the first day is getting your detailed personal history. So there's a challenge that you're having in your life right now. There might be multiple challenges that you are readily aware of. Here are examples of me having conflict with my partner. Here's the anxiety, my inability to sleep. Those things you can identify. You could probably go a little bit deeper and identify the presenting problem underneath the examples of those problems, but they all come down to one greater problem. And that's the thing that is hard for people to figure
Mm.
out. If you knew what that greater problem was, you would have dealt with it by now. So I help in the sequencing of the questions. They're structured in a certain way linguistically because neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm a coach of, linguistic is such a key element of it. It's how you talk to yourself, the way that you talk externally to the world, I can identify what strategies you're using to run your life just based on listening to your language. So some of those strategies are effective, some of them are outdated, but we keep running those strategies because that's what we know how to do. So the first day is getting the detailed personal history so you can figure out what the greater problem is. In the sequence of questions that I ask you, I'm also getting your limiting beliefs, what parts of you are in conflict, what else is your baggage, all of those things, and I'm identifying them. At the end of the session, I'll take you through that values exercise, and then I'll ask you to rank in order of intensity, 0 to 10, 10 being most intense. Here's, in your own words, what you told me are the things that are, lighting you up or holding you back or whatever you feel is your baggage. And so usually clients will say to me, yeah, that's like a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So I have this list. And then on day 2, we do all the release work. The release work actually goes pretty quickly. Then we revisit the same exact list that we created on day 1. And I ask them again, hey, can you rank these from 0 to 10? And they will often, like I would say 80 to 90% of the time, well, 100% of the time, all of the rankings drop in intensity. About 80 to 90% of the time, people are at like a 0 to a 1. Some are at like a 3 to a 4. And then they usually can recall the experiences that they had, but there's no more trigger around it anymore. There's no more emotional drama around it anymore. And then we do the value solicitation again. And 100% of the time, the values shift in order. I would say, again, 90% of the time and up, there's a number 1 core value that appears on day 2 that didn't even show up on your list on day 1. So now you know how your unconscious mind is operating. And this is without all of your baggage. So this is the purest essence of who you are. It's like we just updated your entire operating system. And so you get to move through the world like that with so much more clarity.
Wow, I love that. It's like getting to the root cause, right?
Mhm.
That's what's coming up for me. So you get to that, and how do you maintain that? How do you move through the world with that consistently
Yeah.
without having you
Mhm.
around?
It's such a great question. So in between every single second, you're getting bombarded between 2 to 11 million bits of information. You filter that through your visual, auditory, kinesthetic, like what you see, what you hear, what you feel, and then sometimes your olfactory and your gustatory. But the first 3 are the most prominent. And those are your filtering systems that are also based on your beliefs, your judgments, the values that you have, like all of these lived experiences. So all of that filters in through all of those things, and your conscious mind can only process 126 bits of that. So 126 bits per second versus the 2 to 11 million bits that you're getting. Where does all that information go? It goes into your unconscious mind. When I work with clients, I'm working on your unconscious, which is where all learning, behavior, and change happens on the unconscious level. So what I'm doing is I'm helping you rewire your neurology, and the change is permanent.
Mm,
So I've been able to test with clients. Like sometimes I ask clients to schedule their follow-up call within 7 days so we can keep the momentum moving forward.
yeah.
Sometimes they're all high achievers. They're, I work with a partner in New York at a law firm. So we didn't get a chance to connect until about 3 weeks later. So then I went through the list again and I'm like, hey, I just want to check in. This is what we said. This is how we finished up the breakthrough session. I want to check in and see how you're feeling now. And all of the rankings were exactly the same. So it demonstrated to me it's a permanent shift,
Mm,
even without me working with her, over those few weeks. The next step is once we release your baggage, it's important that you have a direction that you want to move towards. So nature abhors a vacuum. Once we clear out all this clutter, you want to fill it up with the good stuff. You want to fill it up with
mhm,
what do I want to create in my life? Who do I want to be 5 to 20 years from now? What direction am I heading in? What are the things I need to do? And those are the things that I work with clients on. So like releasing the baggage and focusing on your future. The last 2 steps to create lasting change are that you take purposeful, intentional actions that are aligned with what you want to create, and that you stay present on the past. So when you get feedback from the world, you know how to pivot. And those last 2 are really the client's responsibility. It's like when I did therapy before, the therapist said to me, the real therapy happens outside the 4 corners of this office. It's when you get
mhm,
out to the world. And when I was a yoga teacher, I used to say the same things of the real yoga happens off of the 4 corners of this mat. It's not like it's nice to be in this like contained environment. You can control the externals and the controllables. But what happens when you leave and you get triggered by something else? Then what happens?
mhm,
So
mhm.
a lot of this is practicing the new ways of being who you want to be, doing what you want to do, and having what you want to have. This is actually what Tony Robbins like rose to fame doing. He still does NLP. He just doesn't call it that anymore. He does it like under his own
Yeah.
brand, his own, name. So everything that we're doing is to create that lasting change. And so a lot of times clients will tell me, it's like I can remember the thing that happened, but it's like trying to scratch an itch that's no longer there, that they've been scratching for so long, but it's just not there.
Mm-hmm.
Or that they're just trying to pull like something that was vaguely familiar that's like not really there. And so what I see with clients a lot is it really is the intentional action and where you're putting that attention after you do the breakthrough session that makes the biggest difference in your success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, I would love to back up for a sec
Yeah.
and ask you, because you said so many helpful, informative, very dense things, terminologies. I want to ask you about NLP. I want to ask you about what kind of clients come to
Yeah.
you and what has happened in their lives that made them want to seek someone like you to help them. But first off, I want to learn about where you're from. How did you get to doing this type of work? What led you to want to do this type of work and to help the people that you're helping?
Yeah. So, I've always been, I was not going to be the doctor, lawyer, engineer that my parents probably were hoping for. I'm the eldest of four. So I stopped being good at math when I hit logic in like seventh or eighth grade. And then it just kind of like downward went from there. So I'd always been a storyteller. I'd always loved writing, and that's where I lost time. So I was able
Mm,
to make a career out of it. I became a copywriter. I became a published author. I became a travel writer. I did all these amazing things. And along the way, my childhood kind of caught up with me. So I had an eating disorder when I was 17, and it kind of lasted for 15 years on and off. And I did everything that I could to get over it. But it just got me to a point of surviving and not really thriving. I was just even happy that I was surviving as opposed to like what I had been feeling before. So I kept trying to run away from myself all around the world. And I lived in China. I lived in Taiwan. I've have like, 40 something addresses behind my name if you like Googled my credit report or whatever. So I've been around a lot of places, all trying to run away from myself. And when I was in college,
mm,
I remember, it'd be really cool to do psychology because I'm very fascinated by the mind. But at the time, I was like, I can't imagine sitting in a room listening to somebody's problems. I have so many of my own that does not seem like the right thing to do. So I ended up becoming a English major and a mass communication. So I went into marketing and advertising, and I was able to build a whole career doing that. I didn't know you could monetize creativity. So it was really exciting
mm,
for me to be able to do that. And then along the way, I realized, but this isn't what I'm good at it. And I created a lot of traction, but this isn't what I want to do. I want to make a bigger impact. And it was always when I wrote articles and got them published, and people would reach out to me from around the world saying, thank you for putting into words what I was feeling, but I didn't know how to express. And that gave me so much fulfillment. So I started, I became a yoga teacher to try to heal myself, and I realized I love teaching. And so as I continued to do more work exploring myself and seeing the impact that it had on others when I was able to share that story, but in a healing kind of way, it made me realize this is more of what I want to do. And then as I continue to build my agency, whenever I'm really good at helping other people identify their unique selling proposition, what helps them stand out. But it was really hard for me to do that for myself. And so I'd ask all these experts in all these entrepreneurial circles, help me do the thing that I do for other people. Tell me after I tell you my story, what I'm good at. And they'd always be like, yeah, that's a toughie. I don't know how to distill what it is that you do. And so finally, I realized that I'd work with C-level executives, founders, entrepreneurs, and the key thread along it all was they all just felt better having me around. So I
mm,
started trying to explore like, what is it about that they resonate with? And
mhm,
I learned about human design. I learned that according to my blueprint, when I'm in the room, it allows other people to feel their emotions more clearly and to understand
Mm,
themselves better. And I don't even have
mm.
to say anything or do anything. Just by my presence in the room, it starts to open that up within them. So then I was still working through different things that I needed to heal from my childhood, from getting divorced, being married to a narcissist, having, all postpartum depression, all these things. So I explored every healing modality under the sun. And when I was living in Austin, one of the things that perked my interest was NLP, but I didn't really have the capacity at the time to learn about it. So once I
Did
moved
you
to
learn that from Tony Robbins? Is that where you learned it
I
from?
didn't. I learned it from there's a really strong women's entrepreneurial community in Austin. And so one of the
Mm,
or several of the women actually had learned about it. They used it to increase their sales, to, be a better
gotcha.
leader, like that kind of stuff. So I'd always been curious. And when I finally had an opportunity to learn about it, it was like, oh, this is it. This is what I've been looking for to be able to help other people.
Mm,
And I think because I've gotten better, but I'm not necessarily the most patient person in the world. And so after
same.
spending like decades exploring healing modalities, doing all sorts of things, retreats, trying to everything from psilocybin to neural reprogramming and all the things, and a lot of talk therapy, NLP was the most effective, fastest thing that I had ever seen, where clients will come to me and say, that was like 10 years of therapy in a couple of hours. And
Mm,
it's because you have to get your critical faculty out of the way. You have to get your conscious thinking mind out of the way. And for so many of us high achievers, if you're a woman of color, if you've had to code switch or whatever, you've had to use that conscious mind a lot, and you've had to
yes.
use it to fit in. Yeah. So we've become accustomed to using that, but it's on overdrive. And it's actually, if you think about it, the least intelligent part of our brains, because again, your conscious mind can only take in 126 bits out of the 2 to 11 million that your unconscious mind is getting.
Right.
So the more that you
Right.
can tap into the unconscious, the more you can tap into the wisdom that you have. In fact,
So
science.
NLP is what you use to tap into the unconscious.
Yeah. So, and I've
Okay.
been working with some therapists recently, one of whom I'm actually training for her to be able to use NLP with her clients. And they told me, we hear about the subconscious and the unconscious a lot as a therapist, but nobody ever shows you how to actually access it and be able to help clients with it. And these tools are so simple. They're, they take between 5 to 15 minutes usually, the actual release work and the actual using of these tools, the implementing of them. And the profound shift that happens afterwards, like the lasting change, is unbelievable. I did one parts integration because a part of me was in conflict with the other part, where I was like, well, I feel like I should build my agency, but I actually want to do the coaching thing. And once I went through this exercise, not only did it help me heal and see there actually was no conflict between both parts, they just had different strategies to get to the same goal. It healed my entire relationship with my tiger mom and my family, so that for the rest of my life, I will be able to truly enjoy their company, truly love who they are without any expectation, without any like trauma, so that, eventually when they pass, I won't regret not making the most of the time that I had. And I won't still be harboring like anger or resentment. And that happened in 15 minutes. And so just
Mm,
about the ramifications, and I wasn't even focused on family. I was focused on my career. So
hmm.
really amazing what can happen.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Um, so is it usually like some type of life transition, or maybe the client isn't being able to like make a breakthrough on something that causes them to want to seek you out and try NLP?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've seen it now being mentioned more and more. So, like Reese Witherspoon mentioned working with someone for it for her anxiety. This other coach who works with elite athletes was saying how he works with it when he's trying to increase their performance. For the people who tend to be drawn to me, they've either hit the arrival fallacy, where they've done everything, they've checked the boxes of making this much money, getting the titles, all that kind of stuff, and they're not happy. Their external
Mm,
world amazing. And inside they're like, what is this even all for? What am I doing here? So there's that kind of feeling. There's also the anxiety spiral that a lot of people, they're waking up in the middle of the night and they like can't shut it off. They're just like thinking about things over and over. Or you hit a plateau. You're like, this should not bother me. I'm an adult. I know intellectually why this might be triggering, but this shouldn't stop me from getting to that next level.
Right.
What is happening? So it's all of those things like unblocking the unconscious so that you can have more of that
Mm.
straight line experience.
No wonder those high performers like you being there with them.
Mhm.
Because you're allowing them to like really see and understand what could be causing those
Mhm.
behaviors or those thoughts that they may not be, like you said,
Yeah.
conscious about,
Yeah.
right? You remind me of, I don't know if you've watched the show Billions, but that character Wendy, she's like the performance coach of like this billionaire. Anyway, but he has her around because of the clarity that she
Mhm.
brings to his life, not just in his business dealings, but also like in his personal life with his family, his friends, and all that integrates with each other,
Mhm.
right? That like that affects how you perform in your businesses
Mhm.
and how you perform with the people that you work with.
This episode is brought to you by Tasty Sounds, a company that I co own, which helps bring experiences and brands to life through music. Whether you're throwing a private event, producing a retreat, or building a brand from the ground up, sound matters. It sets the tone, stirs emotion, and stays with people long after the moment ends. Tasty Sounds delivers curated DJ sets, custom playlists, and full sonic branding, all built to elevate your experience and help your audience feel exactly how you want them to feel. We don't just play music, we shape how people connect with your story. So if you're a founder, creative director, or just someone who knows the power of good music, head to tastysoundsla.com to book a consultation.
I read in your bio that you also utilize MER, mental emotional release. Can you talk to me about that and how those two approaches, NLP and MER, like really help with your work and how they work together?
Yeah. So I'll start by backing up as well. So neuro-linguistic programming, the actual definition of it is neuro is how you process the world through your five senses. Linguistic is how you communicate to yourself, your internal dialogue, how you communicate out there in the world. And the programming are just all the strategies that you run. You have a strategy for everything, how you get up in the morning, how you fall in love, how you get into a fight, how you eat. Those are all strategies that we've been programmed with. And so
Mm,
it's also known as the study of excellence. So if you can find someone out there in the world who's done something and created exceptional results, you can model their behavior if you figure out what they're doing and like, back it all the way to now to where you are. So a lot of this is understanding that when you can master that communication with yourself, so your mindset, your self-talk, and when you can master the communication that you put out into the world, you can master pretty much anything. So if you can influence the conversation that you're having with someone, where, oh, I see we're about to embark on conflict in an interpersonal relationship. Okay. I can
mm,
see that we're not hearing each other, we're not seeing each other. And knowing the different linguistic techniques that you can use to get out of that and be able to move to a place of agreement again, and then a place of understanding. So, a lot of this isn't just used for ourselves to heal ourselves. This is what leaders use to be able to communicate on broad platforms. It's understanding how much of your communications happens physiologically through your tone versus your words. Only 8% of your words is what anybody's actually hearing. Everything else is them watching your physiology, feeling your energy, hearing the tone of your voice. That communicates much louder than anything else. And just
mm,
understanding all of these different things where if you can help guide the conversation, you get to help guide the outcome of it, which is why people use it in sales. And so there's so many ways to apply NLP to help you attain the outcomes that you want to see in your life. And I like to focus on the mindset component because if you can
mm.
figure that out, then you are always the locus of control, nothing else. A therapist had once said to me, when everything is messy on the inside, you try to organize the outside to try to make the inside feel better. But if you feel organized on the inside, you don't even have to worry about like all the stuff that's happening outside. You'll always be able to find that sense of centeredness and control and peace. And so NLP, is a lot of just understanding. When I do a detailed personal history, I can just hear and see the strategies coming to fruition. I can see the linguistic patterns. I can even watch you while you're talking. And based on where your eyes are looking when I ask you certain questions, I know if you're recalling it from an auditory perspective, from a visual perspective, if you're making it up
Mm.
in the moment. And so that's so helpful because, again, if I know that you process the world primarily through feelings, I feel like what you're trying to tell me is, I get the sense that, then in order for me to better communicate with you, I'm going to match you and meet you using feelings words. Then you'll be able to hear me better. You'll be able to understand
Right.
me better. And so part of it is like, that's the part where I use NLP, is just to identify what the greater problem is. The mental and emotional release technique is timeline therapy. So the reason it happens really fast is, if I were to ask you right now, I want you to be mad 18 years from now, you would be like, okay. The way that your brain would try to figure that out is, I'm going to go to the past, pull an experience from the past where I was angry, and I'm going to project it out into the future, like you're using a projector. But it knows, well, that's not actually the feeling. I'm just projecting something out there because I can't actually do that. Feelings don't make sense in the future for me. And so when we do timeline therapy, I get you to go to the earliest root cause of whatever it is that you're feeling, the earliest root cause of anger, the earliest root cause of sadness. And suddenly, when you're in the past, your present and your future, all of that moves into the future. And your unconscious mind says, wait a minute, all of those problems now are in the future. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to clean it all up. And then it
Mm.
just is a through line, and then it just releases all of the other charge on all of the subsequent events. Your unconscious mind just wants to learn the lesson that you needed to learn then,
Mhm.
to close the loop. So I think Carl Jung says there's nothing so satisfying to the human mind as to understand why, and to
Yeah.
understand the why behind something. So marketers know how to do this really well. They create an open loop and they're like, well, if you want to watch the next episode, then you'll be able to find how this turns out. And then you tune into the next
Mhm.
episode. So it's the same thing for your unconscious mind. All these significant emotional events have happened in your life. There are all these open loops that have not been closed yet. And so that creates kind of that angst and that anxiety, because it knows, like, I want to just close the loop. I want to close the loop. What do I do? And so when we do the
Mhm.
timeline work, when I help you figure out how to process that positive learning, then your unconscious mind can close the loop and it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, thanks. Like, that's it. That's all I needed. And then you can let the rest.
Mm. That okay, that makes a lot of sense because otherwise your brain is like having all these windows open.
Yeah.
And I think that's why maybe a lot of people end up being overwhelmed or
Yeah.
burnt out because they have so many unclosed, like loops going on, right?
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning. I'm literally envisioning like that loop that goes on your desktop that keeps turning.
Yeah. Or all the
Just
windows that
like
are open.
that.
I'm like, close the window, close the window, close the window. Unsubscribe,
Yes.
unsubscribe.
I know. And I'd love to go back to mindset because you were talking about mindset. And a lot of the listeners that I have, they're founders, high performers as well. So, from your experience working with your clients, what do you think are like the top three mindset traits that successful people share or have in common?
Mm. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot as a trend, and I've gotten firmer about calling this out, is what I see happening is successful people are able to reevaluate their happiness upper limit. So they're able to,
Mm.
what happens after a breakthrough session is you realize change can happen in an instant. The thing that took
Yeah.
the longest was your readiness for the change to happen. Everything that I do in NLP isn't something that you haven't not done before. So, for example, you go to the store and someone's really rude to you, like the checkout person is really rude, and you're just like, dude, what an ass. Like, what is their problem? But then let's say
Hmm.
suddenly you found out their child is in the hospital, they're barely able to make the medical bills, like all of this kind of stuff. And in an instant, you shift your lens. You're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Can I help in any way? Like, or just you have so much more compassion. So you've already done this over and over again in your life. And so being able to understand that change can happen in an instant is really powerful. And then I see high achievers, successful individuals kind of realize the grief of like, oh my God, I've been holding on to this for so long when I could have gotten rid
Mm,
of it like how long ago. And that
mhm.
grief can be hard to sit in. And so instead of sitting in the grief and accepting that, I see people kind of start to backslide to be like, nope, I'm going to go back to the worry and the anxiety because that I know how to do instead of just sitting with the discomfort of the grief to be able to break through it. So I would say successful people can handle that. They can sit with the discomfort and then be able to move through it. The other thing that I see
Mm.
is people are absolutely what Marianne Williamson says. They're absolutely more afraid of their power and their potential than their limitations. And over again, I see people start to tap into, oh my gosh, that's how powerful I could be. Oh my gosh, it could be this easy to manifest and create the things that I want because all of a sudden, all the things that I'm asking for are just showing up without me having to hustle and grind for them. And
Yeah.
that can be so uncomfortable that, again, I watch certain people backslide into anxiety or whatever default strategies they had before. This
Is
is
that
why
because it's the unknown? Like they don't know how to
unknown.
function in that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the unknown. You have to make a conscious choice continuously to keep focusing on the things you do want as opposed to getting lost in the collective energy. Like our society has an energy, our culture has an
Yeah.
energy of worry, of,
Yeah.
procrastinating, of saying the big things but not actually like doing them and sitting with the discomfort.
Right.
So you can buy into that momentum really easily. It's already been built and it's like hovering
It's
around.
it's heavy.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And because your brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes information based on your belief system, and quantum physics continues to show that the atoms around us are watching us, waiting for us to observe them, to show up in the way that we believe they should show up. And so we are that powerful, and if you really want to be successful, you're going to have to sit and learn a new paradigm and a new way of being and a new way of doing and
Mm,
an ability to step into a greater version of you, which can again be really scary. We're not taught as a culture, hey, you can heal that in a second. Like, you're just like, no, you've got to go through years of this and you better work hard for this and all of that kind of stuff. So
yes.
I think those are the two biggest things that I see. And then just to always be curious. I think one of the other things that I
Okay.
love is anytime that you develop a belief, you delete every other option that could have existed because now you're adhering to this belief. So let's say, for
Mm,
example, that when you're little, you're learning how to walk around and you bump into a chair. And then the adult around you says, oh, are you okay? You bumped into a chair. Well, before you knew that was called a chair, you just thought it was a thing. And it could have been any number of things. It could have been a unicorn, like whatever.
mm,
But once someone labels it a chair, every other option of what it could have been goes away. So I see that successful people allow themselves to be curious, like, is it a chair? Or what would I want to call it? Or
mm.
what else is possible that I didn't see before? And so just to have that sense of curiosity, like, oh, what else is
Huh.
possible? That's an interesting point of view. What else? How could it get better than this? And so
Yeah.
being curious, then you open up the doorway to possibility. You don't need to answer the question. You just need to ask the question. And then all of a sudden you're like, huh, I wonder what else it could be.
Oh, I love that. Two things come up for me.
Yes.
One is the concept of certainty. I've been learning a lot about Kabbalah recently, and what
Mm,
you are saying to me reminds me a lot of the principles of Kabbalah, specifically certainty, because
mm,
certainty allows one to open up their lives for miracles to happen.
mm,
And when you were just talking about curiosity, being curious, being open to what things could potentially mean other than what you were told, other than what you grew up with, allows your vessel to take in more light that you may not even know existed around you. But the light is always there,
mhm,
except you're not able to contain the light that has all the miracles that you may be asking for. So it
mm,
might sound a little woo, but to me, what you're saying is the exact same thing that those principles of
Mhm.
Kabbalah are talking about. Um, and totally agree with the mindset traits that you talked about, especially when it comes to curiosity. It reminds me of having like a growth mindset
Mhm, mhm,
versus a fixed mindset, right?
mhm,
And then the other question that I wanted to ask you, which I think you've already answered, is this practice of procrastination. A
mhm.
lot of high performers that I've come across, some of them do, I shouldn't say a lot, but a lot of people enough do have procrastinating tendencies. Would you say that is because of the fear of the unknown, the fear of being successful, where that comes from sometimes?
I think it's going to be different depending upon each person. When I taught yoga, there's a woman who practices Diksha who I interviewed, and Diksha is like this path to enlightenment. So she told me, however many people there are on this planet, that's how many paths to enlightenment there are. And I had never heard that before, that
Mm,
it's not a one size fits
wow.
all. It's a one size fits one kind of experience. And so everything that I do, when even just this morning, I worked with a client and she's like, but I don't know how to be more compassionate with myself. How do I do that? And I said to her, that's an answer
Yeah.
you need to explore. Because if I gave you the blueprint of like what it is, that's me taking away your power, one. And two, my experience of compassion is going to be different than your experience of compassion. You have a totally different lived experience than I do. I can guide you in asking
Mm,
questions. You need to be curious about taking the action steps to lean into the answer and to lean into the exploration and to lean into the curiosity. And so
mm,
I think that for procrastination in particular, it feels like you're being productive when you are thinking about something or when you are analyzing something. Or, I mean, procrastinating is probably one of my new favorite terms, is like learning all these things and then what? I think,
yes.
yeah, it's like a little bit of, depending on the person, it could be kicking the can, but it also could just be, again, the thing that takes the longest is the readiness to change. And sometimes we
Hmm.
just need to just get a little bit more ready and a little bit more ready. And then finally, one day, we're totally ready. So I have a lot of compassion
Mm,
for that journey. I just also want to advocate you don't need to like wait so long. I think a lot of high achievers wait until that pain point when they just can't deal with it anymore. And it's costing a
yeah,
price now. So, yeah.
right. Well, how do you shorten that? What can you do to not have to wait so long?
So I always like to tell clients, your unconscious mind is on my side. We are on the side
Hmm.
of wholeness for you. If you open up the doorway to wanting that and just leaning into that, you're going to be so much more ready than you give yourself credit for. So I
Mm,
always tell them, if your baggage comes up, if you get all riled up, it's actually a good sign. It means that your unconscious mind believes that you now have the resources to handle and deal with the thing that's riling you up. If you did not have
mm,
those resources, your unconscious mind wants to keep you healthy and whole and protected. So it's going to shove it so far down that you wouldn't even see it starting to float up. And until it knows you have the bandwidth and the capacity and the resources to be able to deal with it, that's when it's going to start to float things up for your awareness. So I always tell clients, I'm like, now that you've signed up to work with me, between now and when we have your breakthrough session, don't be surprised if things start coming up, because that's the universe saying, oh my gosh, thank goodness, like, let's go and let's do this.
yes.
And so that yielding to just that awareness of like, okay, I will be open to it. Then that's all I need. Everything that I do is with permission. I ask your unconscious mind for permission before every single release technique. Do I have permission with your unconscious mind? If ever there was a
Mm,
no, we would talk about it, because I'm doing this with you. It's not like I'm doing anything to you. And so I want you to have that buy in. You having that buy in is going to get better results. And I'll give you an example too. So my partner has been going through a really challenging experience at work, and he isn't like super into the same, well, definitely not at the level that I am, but isn't super into the same types of personal development work that I do. But he did say, okay, I want to fix my brain, quote unquote. I want to like get over this experience. So I took him through a couple of techniques and I kept feeling like he was like so resistant. And so I just kept asking each and every time, is this actually something that you want to do? Do you want to do this? We can like bring somebody else in and do it if you feel like, you know. And he's like, nope, I want to do it. I'm going to go. But each time I keep checking in. And then after we were all done, he came over to me and said, I know that I was a very obstinate client, and I promise you I was actually giving it more than I thought that I was going to give it. And can we try it again? And I will be more open and willing to. This was the first time that I did it. This was the first experience that I had doing it. Can we try again sometime? So what it indicated to me is this was his first round of readiness. And we got to a certain point. He even woke up this morning saying, I do feel different. And I was telling him, I'm like, I know we go around telling everybody you're an exceptional, unique being in the world. You're really special. When it comes to this release work, your brain is not different or special so much so that these techniques aren't going to work on you. They're going to work. They worked 100% of the time. The level that they're going to work, that's dependent upon your willingness to show up and do the work. That's the only difference. So the techniques work, I know without a doubt. That's why I offer a guarantee with all my coaching. And it's also dependent upon how much you're willing. And so it was a huge learning to me to see, wow, sometimes it's just a matter of like, okay, let's just take one step forward. And then the next time you'll be ready to take the next step forward. We'll be able to go a little bit deeper and then the next one. And so it was a really great lesson all around of, you know, the efficacy of the work, even with resistance, and how different people have different trajectories, and, you know, to understand that.
Yeah, results are guaranteed, but the kind of results depend on the work or the openness, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, that you have. That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. Is is this something that people can practice on their own, or do you recommend that you do work with someone like you, at least for the beginning?
Yeah. So my goal is that every client, once we run through the techniques and you know how to do it and you understand kind of like, okay, this is how you kind of mine a little bit deeper, then once we rewire your neurology, you can take those techniques and do them on your own. There's no reason that you know, couldn't practice them on a regular basis. I do it with myself on a regular basis. And I do think that in the beginning, you do need that help to do like the major rehaul of the operating system, the breakthrough session. And then after that, after you get used to it and you know how the techniques work, then that's something that you can run with on your own. And then, you know, to always reach out. I advocate like definitely reach out for help when you feel like you're starting to get overwhelmed or, you know, you need that support. There's no shame in that game. I'm all about it. And you're more powerful than you know. So you have the capacity to do this.
Mm. Judy, could you run through like a quick exercise that you do for yourself? Is that even possible? So we can give the audience like a little example or a taste?
Yeah, that's a really great, you know, I will share, I'm trying to see which one would be best. I'll share two different ones. So
Okay.
a lot of the times when you're worried about a problem, you go into foveal view, which is like everything moves into that fight or flight focused state. One of the best ways to access your unconscious mind to build relationship is to start accessing your peripheral vision. So if you were to look straight in front of you and slightly above,
Hmm.
maybe a few inches above, and then you start to see how far out of the corners of your eyes you can see. You'll be able to start to take in more of the side walls or more of the decor on either side. You can imagine also that you're at the beach staring at the horizon, and then you start to try to see as far out to the sides as you can. And so
Hmm.
that starts to access your unconscious mind. You can also start to
Mm.
envision that you can experience everything behind you, everything above you and below you, everything to each corner of the room that you're in. So the more that you can expand that view, the more you move into your peripheral vision. When you do that, you start to access all of the insights and the wisdom and the resources that you have already right here, right now, that you forget about when you start to go into the focused fight or flight. So one of the things that I do is I just go into that expanded view when I feel like I'm having a challenge, and I just start to think about the problem that was just worrying me 2 seconds ago, whatever it was. Let's
Mm.
say like, "Oh, I have to go get my car fixed and I don't know what's gonna happen." And once I start to take that problem and I put it into that peripheral vision, immediately I'm like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like I have what I need to take care of. I know what I'm gonna do, da 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 da." And it just starts to dissipate. It's one of the fastest ways that you can access your reserves of power. So the more that you practice that regularly, like as often as you possibly can, the more you can kind of diminish the fight or flight and the stress and start to move into the parasympathetic, the awareness of all of the kind of like access points that you don't know. So there's
Yeah.
an ophthalmologist that talks about how we take in so much information through our eyes. And if you wonder where gut instinct comes from, where intuition comes from, oftentimes it's the fact that we've taken in all of this information our conscious minds haven't been able to process. So we have, again, more insight and wisdom that we know. So that's one technique that I would say. The other is to just get your critical faculty out of the way. Because again, your conscious mind is the most limited part of you when it comes to being able to address a challenge or a problem or a stress. So one of the things
Mm.
that I like to do with clients is I just ask them a series of questions to get them to think about the problem, but realize, like what is actually what they're choosing to subscribe to, what content or what stories they're listening to instead of trusting that inner resourcefulness. So if your
Mm.
listeners were to pick a problem right now and whatever it is that's stressing them out, remembering that reality is just this construction that we've made of space, time, matter, and energy. So we construct reality based on what we observe. Again, we're observing, deleting, distorting, generalizing information based on our belief systems, our values. We observe with our minds. Observations are measurements. Measurements
Mhm.
transform nothing into something, and we make those measurements through our language. So just understanding that's how reality works. It's like a story that we've constructed. I ask clients, okay, like tell me or just come up with the problem. And then I ask them a series of questions. What is it? What is it not? How do you know what it is not? What is it that you need to not know to know this? What is it that you
Mhm.
need to pretend to know this? What's the problem? How do you know? How do you know it's a problem? When did you decide that? When don't you do it now? What are you not deciding when you don't do it? How is that different from how you were? How do you know that now? What other changes would you like to make? And even just by me asking all of those questions, the person's like, what was I talking? What was the problem? Like, what? And it just starts to dissolve it a little bit more so that you can
Yeah.
access again all of the unconscious resources that you have.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. Even just as you were asking me those questions, I'm like, what were we talking about? Wait,
Yeah,
can I ask you again?
exactly.
Um, it so works. Oh my gosh. Um, Thank you for going through that with me. I think that gives the audience a much clearer picture and idea of the type of work that you do and what NLP can truly bring to their lives, what type of transformation it could bring. Um, I want to ask about your book,
Mhm.
um, your upcoming book. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's called How to Disappoint Your Parents in 10 Shameless Steps, a
Mhm.
modern Asian American guide.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it. Why did you write it? What made you write it?
Yeah.
And how does this tie
Yeah.
into your mission?
I've done the opposite of what a quote unquote good Chinese girl should do. I became a writer and a barefoot yoga teacher. I got tattoos. I talked about all my problems in therapy and wrote about them publicly on like giant platforms like Mind Body Green and all that kind of stuff. I got divorced. I got pregnant before I got married and chose to do that. All of the, I tell my daughter, like, grades aren't that important. Like, make sure you're a resourceful human being and you know how to have interpersonal relationships and manage your money and like all the things. Ultimately, the goal is to help people understand if you were the black sheep of the family, if you were the one who could never fit in, and you were struggling, because I struggled hard, you can still create a life that you love, one based on, again, your own values, the things that are important, and still be able to have good, healthy relationships with your family of origin, even if they still believe the things that they believe. One of the precepts in NLP is you respect everyone's model of the world. You don't have to sign up for it. You don't have to believe in it, but you respect it. And you ask that they respect yours. And it just dissolves a lot of conflict when you're like, okay, that's what you believe. It's not what I believe. I respect that that's what you believe. So a lot of it is just starting to understand, hey, there's different ways. Again, being curious, like, well, what else is possible? If I don't follow this trajectory, what else could be possible for life? And so I've had people from all different backgrounds, not just Asian Americans, read some of the sample chapters. And they're like, this is for everybody, right? Like anybody who grew up in a religious household and wasn't religious, anybody who came out, anybody, like who just did anything different. And so the goal is just like, it's a resource I wish I had when I were younger, before I knew what therapy was, before I could afford to go to therapy. I wanted to know that there was someone else out there who felt as lonely as I did, who was able to make her way through life and then make a life that she truly loves. Like, I just got off a call before we hopped on. It was one of the reasons that I was a couple minutes late. Please forgive me. And it was about my being invited to an opportunity to be involved in such a monumental movement on the island of Kauai, where my daughter was born, for Hawaii, and then to advocate for all of these elders and these indigenous individuals and the wisdom. And that's not something that I could have planned for. It's only something that I was invited into because I just kept pursuing the things that lit me up. And I was bold and believed in doing that. And I did it I used to do it with a lot of like fanfare and making my parents be like, no, you have to see it my way, and like all the rebellious kind of things, until I realized, actually, just the more that I work on myself, the more my external world changes. And so I don't have to fight against anything anymore. I just get to be who I want to be.
I love that. It reminds me of the quote on your website: until you master your inner world, your outer world will never be in harmony. I
Mhm.
loved that quote when I
Mhm.
saw that on your site.
Mhm.
Um, uh, One last question that I have for you is, for someone listening to this who is really determined to break their old patterns and step into their highest potential, what's one small shift that they can make today?
I would honestly just say, and this is from Access Consciousness, so you can Google that and like find it. It's kind of quirky and weird, but I've always enjoyed it. And so if you look it up, one of the things that they say is, that's an interesting point of view. In as you address your own thoughts, as you address someone else's feedback to you, just, well, that's an interesting point of view. Because again, just acknowledging that's one point of view out of an infinite number of points of view starts to open you up to, okay, well then what other points of view are possible? Like, what else is available? And just by doing that one little thing of like, that's an interesting point of view, then you just start to like allow yourself to be less rigid. You allow yourself to open up to the magic of the universe. Like, I'll close by saying, for a lot of us who want to focus on manifesting certain results or outcomes, we can get really attached to what we think it's going to look like. And I'm pretty sure for a lot of us, it doesn't look ever like the way that you thought that it was going to look. Or if it did, you kind of hit the arrival fallacy. So one of the things that I do with clients is I help them see it's not like woo-woo magic when things start to manifest in your life so fast after you do a breakthrough session. It's because you shifted what you're looking at. Like, you shifted your entire perspective and your point of view. The 126 bits, you just chose a different 126 bits to focus on, and that became your new reality. So everything that you deleted, distorted, and generalized based on that old system is now dissolved, and you have an open awareness of everything else that's just around you right here, right now, that you couldn't even see before. So that's how like some of the results happen so quickly. And it's just by, again, interesting point of view that I have that point of view. What else is possible? And when I work with clients to manifest the outcomes that they want, all I ask them is, how are you going to know when you have it? What's the convincer that you need? Are you going to be standing on a stage? Are you going to be signing a book? Are you going to be standing somewhere with a partner? Like, well, how do you know that that moment is the moment where you've gotten what you wanted? Okay, all I need is that moment. And then we're going to go backwards from there. I'm going to ask you about all the significant milestones that need to happen before then. But I don't really care about what the milestone was. I want to know, what do you want to feel in that moment? What state do you want to be in? Do you want to be fulfilled, happy, peaceful, excited? Like, what is it? If you can identify along the way, all the way to now, from that future point all the way to now, all the states that you want to be in, then you allow for the universe to fill in the rest of the gaps, to be like, okay, I'm going to tell you, here's what I want to feel at each of these key moments. How that comes to fruition, you help me fill in the gaps. And that leaves so much more room for like wonder and mystery and magic and all of that to unfold. And you still get what you want at the end.
Yeah, it's being specific while also allowing room or space to be surprised
Yeah.
pleasantly by the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah. And then when you have that inner alignment, even if things ask you to pivot that weren't how you wanted them to be, it's not so stressful because you've got that inner resourcefulness, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah, you are certain that what is going to come to you is exactly how it's supposed to come to you,
Yeah.
which I think for me gives me a lot of reassurance and
Yes.
peace, like you
Yes.
were saying, right? It's like knowing that, gosh, the best is yet to come,
Yes.
really.
I literally just thought that statement yesterday. The best is yet to come. Absolutely.
The best is yet to come. Oh my gosh, Judy, you like personify what the Tradition Breakers podcast is all about with your story.
Oh,
Thank you so much
thank
for your
you.
time and your knowledge and experience. I was so excited to have you on. I was telling my husband, oh my God, I'm going to have a performance coach on. Um, and I wanted to interview you selfishly too, because I'm like, oh, I can
Mm,
learn so much from her. Um, so thank you so much for being
thank
so
you.
generous with your knowledge and your wisdom. And I can't wait for your book to come out.
Thank you.
Um, we'll make sure to link all of your details in the show notes. And is your book available for pre-order yet, or is
The Kickstarter page
not
is
yet?
still live, so you can go to the Kickstarter to order a copy.
Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. So I'll get the link from you and we'll put that in there too.
Yeah.
Well, this was great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming on, and thank
Yeah,
you everybody for listening. We'll see
I'm
you
so
on the
grateful.
next episode.
Yes, thank you.
If you like this episode, consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a rating and review. Tradition Breakers is produced by Tasty Sounds, and the theme music is by DJ Professor Moses.